I'm telling you, we're getting the technology sorted now, folks. Absolutely. What about that for a starter? You're very welcome to Moth News Live. It's every Friday, 3 o'clock, 3 to 4. We've decided it's going to be 3 to 4. It's a good time. It's for the people who like to have their dinner in the middle of the day and they call their dinner tea. Something like that. Can't really remember what your man said. Who was he? Faradkar. Who? Leo who? Leo, lots has changed since you've been here, let me tell you. Good afternoon, welcome to Moth News. I'm Keith Walsh, and as always, we have a packed show coming up for you. We have an especially packed show coming up for you, so much so that I have a script here in front of me that I got to read. We've got RTE. Are RTE heading for bankruptcy? Yeah. Our intrepid reporter, Philip, was talking to employment and employee campaigner, man who's been campaigning for employees' rights. I think the employers have plenty of rights. It's okay, Martin, you can stop campaigning for those now. Employees' rights for 25 years. And I've worked with him myself. He's been an immense help. And he does it just because he likes it. It's like a hobby. He won't take a brown envelope off me, this guy, tell you. So coming up, RRTE heading for bankruptcy. Philip will be talking to Martin McMahon. I've got some clips from that interview that's available as a podcast now. If you go to wherever you get your podcasts and download Unvetted, the Moth Live podcast. It's Moth Live. It's like we have a separate stream. We've only got 2 episodes up and we've got a new stream already. So check out Philip's Unvetted and his chat with Martin McMahon with the lowdown on the whole RTE thing. He breaks it down. Philip is an excellent interviewer, and Martin, he shoots from the hip. He doesn't hold back. So are they heading for bankruptcy? We shall see. The Director General, Kevin Backhurst, has made a shocking announcement or pronouncement. He made it a while ago, and Martin McMahon has been banging on about it for a while, and now the audio is out there. Are the mainstream media talking about it? Not really. It's kind of weird. We will talk about that. Jeffrey Leo and a $60 million fraud case. So if you've been watching us, you might know about our American friend, Jeff Leo. He's some character. He wasn't allowed to do business in America anymore. So he came to Ireland and he found a few loopholes. He's been doing the rounds, got some money off some investors in America. And now he's going to court, basically. It looks like the chickens are coming home to roost for Leo. We shall see. And the new government is formed. Hallelujah. The king is dead. Long live the king. Because pretty much the same people. So, yeah, we've got the same government. They left. They went through one of those revolving doors and they all came back in again. But we've got a certain Michael Lowry involved this time. Now, how did this man go from a profoundly corrupt politician to being in government? I don't know. And finally, the moon. Should it be protected as a cultural heritage site? Let's get started with today's top story. I just have one as I kind of run the show here, you know what I mean, man? So I got to get the guests, send them their links, bits and pieces, but it's all cool. You know, this is how this is RT. This is how you could do it. I'm literally on my laptop, microphone. Hopefully people can hear me. Hopefully my microphone is on today. Anyway, excuse my eye line because I am trying to read my script because this is very important stuff. First up, RT is in deep financial trouble, and we're not talking about the TV license debacle. We're talking about Director General Kevin Backhurst, who admitted at a town hall meeting with the employees of RTE that they were forced to fully address the issue of bogus self-employment. The broadcaster, if they were to do so, if they were to pay the money that they owe people, they would be bankrupt overnight. So either they break the law or they're bankrupt. kind of either way, you know what I mean? So for years, many RTE workers have been misclassified as self-employed contractors, missing out on proper employee benefits. This isn't a new issue, but as campaigner Martin McMahon told our chief reporter, Philip O'Connor, it's one that keeps rearing its ugly, ugly, ugly head. It's an ugly head for RTE. It really is. And he kind of believes that this issue, the fact that RTE haven't been, told, lads, you're bankrupt, and they're still there.
As long as RTE
kind of feels they might have
what
influenced
they owe
the
revenue and
elections.
social welfare, they won't prosecute. Now they're using our money, but they're bankrupt. You can't bail out a bankrupt company, but the government did, and they put their thumb on the scales of this election. They owe revenue. As long as RTE keep paying what they owe revenue and social welfare, they won't prosecute. Now they're using our money, but they're bankrupt. You can't bail out a bankrupt company, but the government did, and they put their thumb on the scales of this election. As far as I'm concerned, this government has to go before it starts. It has to go.
Mm-hmm. Strong words. Broke it up a little bit because of my technology. Maybe RT won't be doing this. In fairness, the RT news are a little bit smoother. But yeah, Martin McMahon, there's strong words from him. We will be talking to Philip about that, getting his thoughts on it. And as I said, you can listen to that full episode now. It's called Unvetted, and you can get it wherever you get your podcasts. I would say look up MOTH News Unvetted. You'll find it there. Brilliant interview. Fascinating stuff. And let me tell you, Philip asked some of the questions. He grilled him. He was doubtful and curious, and Martin was not for, the lady was not for turning. He was very adamant about what he was saying, and some very strong opinions. We'd love to know what you think about this. So, like, if RTE are breaking the law, and if they're saying, "Oh no, we can't pay everybody back. We did break the law. We can't pay everyone back because we'll be bankrupt." Then, well, if that happened to another company, they'd be bankrupt. We have our own stories on our own team here of people who have had to, lost their businesses because of issues like this. There was no bailout for them. And as Martin says, you can't be bailing out a bankrupt company. And why would, I worked for RTE, and somebody actually said, "Oh, did you not question it at the time?" And I suppose you presume that the national broadcaster, who get money from the government and also get taxpayers' money and also get license fee money, when you're working for them, you presume they've got their shit together. You presume they know what's what when it comes to tax. It's only afterwards when you go, "Oh, okay, they were breaking the law." And now they want us to feel sorry for them because, guys, that means we'd be bankrupt. Let me tell you about RTE being bankrupt. The big issue for RTE, as far as I'm concerned, as a former employee, there are people in there who are on, I don't know what you'd call them, golden handshake pensions. Basically getting pensions that are about, for some of them, now I don't forgive me if I'm wrong, don't quote me on this, but do also, I think their pension is 90% of what they're being paid. Now you're talking about people who were on 100,000 plus, now they've retired, or they're heading for retirement, and they're going to get 90% of that as their pension. So that's the problem. If you're going to be bankrupt for paying the money to the people that you owe, well, I'm sorry, but the pension guys are going to have to miss out. And that is why RTE are working so hard to stop this, because they don't want the pension, the poor old pensioners missing out. I don't want anybody missing out on their pension, but I don't think they need to get 90% of the 100 and whatever thousand they were getting while they were here. It's absolutely crazy. And a story that's out of this world, literally, the World Monuments Fund has added the moon to its list of threatened cultural sites. Why? Because, well, you've seen it this week. Unfortunately, or thankfully, I don't know, it failed. But Musk is trying to get to the moon. And, the heritage, world monuments people, heritage people are worried about it because they think that, well, if Johnny baseball bat like myself was wandering around the moon and we wrecked the footprints of Buzz and, what's your man's name? Louis Armstrong, the saxophonist. I don't know how he got up in the moon. So if we get up there and we're wrecking the footprints, and we're apparently there's a camera up there, the camera they used to take the photograph, if you believe it happened at all. So they want to just protect this. So it's up there. It's been added for the first time. The moon joins a list of 25 sites, like a lot of places affected by war: Gaza, Ukraine, others at risk from climate change, Kenya, Swahili Coast. So they're saying watch these. It's kind of like for animals when they're on the extinction list. We got to protect these, and we got to protect the moon, guys. Musk he'll have casinos up there. He'll be sending stag parties up there from Ireland. That's from Ireland. We get up to doing the 12 pubs up on the moon for Christmas. So what do you think? Should space heritage be protected like landmarks on Earth, or is this a step too far? Do let us know. And finally, almost finally, onto one of the most shocking and underreported stories we've seen, because that's what we're about here at Moth News. Underreporting, not reporting, leaving things out. And this is the most underreported story that we've come across. The Jeffrey Leo debacle. Yes, I use the word debacle. It's a French word. It's now English. Franglaise. Debacle. This is a case involving allegations of major financial fraud, a high-profile legal battle, and over 60 million of missing money. For those unfamiliar with the story, the situation is Jeffrey Leo was entrusted with money from a company. They're farmers in America, egg money. They're egg farmers, and he gave them 60 million. I have all the details here, but rather than me talking more about it, I'm going to go to Al, our other intrepid reporter, who has had some dealings with our good friend Jeff. Al, can you see me? Are you there? Al is actually currently on the moon at a stag. How's the stag going, Al?
Spaced.
Spacey.
Hey, buddy.
Seen any footprints? Seen any cameras up there? Have you taken any souvenirs so far?
According to Buzz, it's all been a sham, and nobody's ever landed on the moon, apparently. And the hypothesis for his claims are twofold. One, the ship that landed couldn't land on it's made of paper mache. Secondly, there isn't a shadow on the moon, which is extraordinary. And the third one, extraordinarily enough, is there is actually footprints of the cameraman on
who took the photograph,
walking backwards and as he's recording. So if you look carefully, some of the feet are actually doing the moonwalk. So Michael Jackson was right all along. The moonwalk
that was what Michael Jackson was trying to tell us. That's why he was silenced.
It was subliminal.
That's what he was silenced.
Yeah,
that's what he was silenced.
And I've seen pictures of him. He's apparently still alive.
You're going to tell? Yeah, he's living in Argentina with Hitler, I believe. So you're going to tell us about Jeffrey Leo and where we're at. So the other part of this story is the underreporting of it. So this is a big problem. This man's come over from America. He's not allowed to do business in America. He's in Ireland. He's got some money in his back pocket, given to him by this family in America, the Wennings, and they're farmers and they made some money and they want to invest. And he said, "I'm going to invest for you." He took it over to Ireland and sort of bought properties that he then signed over to himself. So they're like, so now there's a court case. The other thing about this, and I will get to it, is that Charlie Taylor, who's a reporter with the Sunday Business Post, who in the past has written very positive pieces about Leo, which is fine. If some guy's doing something nice and it's business and that's his, that's what Charlie does. He writes about business, good business news. But he hasn't written anything about this court case. Are you surprised, Al?
Actually, Keith, it doesn't happen too often, but I am surprised at this for two reasons, right? One, because I actually do have access to information that people have put it to Charlie directly as to why he's not reporting about this when he was so demonstratively reporting about, and I've candidly said on a few occasions that if Jeffrey Leo sneezed in my direction, it was on the front page of all of the MSM, the Sunday Business Post, Times, and others, right? And then that kind of branched out into the other zombies that just follow on, right? But Charlie Taylor has very much been driving that narrative, as has Ian Curran and a few others, right? And Barry White. And, the question I was put to him was, I'll read it out actually, because I won't do it any justice, right? The question was...
So we did go to Charlie Taylor and ask him. Was that
directly? Yeah, directly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question was, I paraphrase because I don't want to. I'm not sure if the guy is happy for me to say. Well, he's happy for me to say, but I don't want to kind of get him into any issues because this guy also received letters from Leo, very nasty ones. He's a nasty individual, this guy.
Yeah, he's turned on him now, has he? Yeah.
Yeah, he's a nasty piece of work, And he said, if there's a story, I'll report on it, blah, 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 blah. And, Liz Pendant's listing on a property isn't news, right? Which Liz Pendant's, but this is my articulation of it as a layman. It's not my technology is my world, not legal. So apparently they've put in a judgment against the properties where the ownership has been reversed.
Including Dundrum House.
Dundrum House and Pilo Hotel. And if he goes to sell them, which is a rumor that he has been trying to sell the assets frantically to get rid of this issue, right? Whoever the would-be buyer would be aware that there's a judgment against them and that the sale can be reversed. Some that's my understanding of that. So, like, if you took it in terms of severity, it's up there in top tier. Like, I mean, for somebody to go to that effort, using a reputable firm like Arthur Cox to do it, like, they're going to a lot of trouble to show that this guy has taken stuff from them and he's defrauded them, right? And if that's not news, and then the question is put back to him, say, but how come you've published an article about proceedings against the Altada founders when there was no filings actually made in the High Court? So there's actually no filings; it was just a plenary submission, and we were on 3 front pages. Right.
But so he's saying that wasn't news, even though there was no filing. But this, where there's actually a court case, he's saying isn't news.
Correct. Right. And then he said, where are the actual findings? Can you point me towards the filings? So the joke was, why don't you just go back to your buddy in Howard Farley that Mark Hickey, you've been dealing with all along. He said, say hi to Alan for me. So he's picked a side. Like, this is a journalist, Keith, right? A journalist. So like, he's supposed to be reporting on the public interest, and somebody's put it to him as a member of the public. By the way, I am not in any shape or form related to this person. This is just somebody who sees wrong being done and is trying to right it. Right? I have no prior experience.
It's not a personal vendetta from you against this man.
This is just somebody that's saying there's something really wrong here with the situation, and he wants to protect his town from turning into, garbage. So this is somebody who should be treated with respect, right? In fairness, he's like, he's a member of he's a citizen of Ireland that, has asked questions of a journalist that puts himself up in the top of, I'm controlling information, or I'm putting out information that's for the public interest. That's always his line. And here's something in the public interest where you've got a known individual that has committed a heinous act where he's defrauded a family of, millions of dollars, right? Has tried to liquidate properties to take them away from this family office, and now they've moved to court, and there's not one report has been written on it, right? So they've gone to the High Court, they've done their submissions, they've reversed the liquidation, they've removed the liquidator, the same liquidator that Leo put into our company. They've removed him, right? And Kieran Wallace has taken over that seat, and now they're moving to demonstrate that this guy has committed fraud. That's it, right? And this is the very same guy that wrote us defamation letters for saying this. And now here it is in the court, and nobody's reported on it. So I'm waiting on my apology, and I'll be waiting, I guess.
I think you will be. But it's interesting that, like, say for instance, the journalist is writing his pieces, but where's the editor in this? Who owns the Sunday Business Post? Why aren't they going? Why is there no question being asked? Maybe they're not aware of it. I'm just not sure. And also, I don't know if you saw, but Charlie also was made citizen of Ireland. I don't know where he hails from, but he got his citizenship very recently. So he now has an extra responsibility to the people of Ireland to do the right thing. And, having a column and writing about finance and business in Ireland and being a journalist, you've got a lot of responsibility to do the right thing. You know,
his credibility is shot, Keith. Like his credibility is shot. Like, I mean, how further in the wormhole do we have to go with this conversation? So you've got an individual that has said that he's got the journalist in his pocket himself. Like, this is I'm quoting what he said.
He said that to you.
He said that to me.
Before.
He said that
he's
to
come
me.
to you and said, "I've got the journalist in my
Yeah.
pocket. There's no you've no hope against me, basically."
Yeah.
And it's true. It seems to be true. Well, Charlie can come on.
Yeah,
he's very welcome to come on, or the editor of the Sunday Business Post can come on here and just tell us
the Irish
what's going on.
Times, or the Irish Examiner.
Yeah,
Barry Weiss, Ian Kern. Come on. Tom Lyons from the Currency, again, another guy that reports on it. You know, and you know, then you look at all of the other stuff that's coming in. You know, in terms of the conversations around other companies that are going through something similar. I mean, we have to start asking the question. You know, is this just an isolated incident, or does this happen a lot? Right, I'm starting to kind of gravitate towards, okay, when your credibility is shot, right?
I'm going to bring Philip in here. He's our journalist. He's our chief reporter. He's our journalist at large, all the way from Scandinavia. Philip, how are you? I know you were listening there. How can a journalist, and this is just me asking you sort of a question that you don't know the answer to necessarily, but maybe in your own opinion, how does a journalist, if he is, it sounds like he's gone rogue in that, or just tell me what you think has happened here, or what's wrong with what's happened here, in that you know the story, he has written, you know, positive stuff about this guy, and now he's saying, well, this is news. What's your take on it?
Well, I think I always have a problem blaming an individual journalist for a particular story, because the book always sort of stops with the editor, you know. But the one thing I would say is that every story has to be seen through to its completion. So if you have a story like this, you know, person X, I'm sure we'll be talking about Michael Lowry later on, right? And you start to report on Michael Lowry, you can't just give up halfway through. You have to follow the story all the way through to the end. And there's going to be instances in which you're covering people, or you're covering principles, or you're covering companies, or you're covering governing bodies, you know, that you think, oh, these people do good work. They have talented people there. They're honest, decent people, that kind of thing. And sometimes things will go wrong, but that doesn't stop you or doesn't prevent you from covering those stories all the way through. And I think that's the one thing that we're sort of lacking. I find a lot with the Irish media and business media in particular, we do have a tendency to put on the green jersey. And I'm not specifically referring to this case now because I don't know the details well enough. I think Alan is much more knowledgeable on that front, right? But we have a tendency to put on the green jersey and to believe the best in people when that's not actually our role as journalists, right? It's like that thing of, if one side tells you that it's raining and the other side tells you, you know, it's not, your job is to go out and open the window and find out what's true, you know? And I think we really struggle. And it's one of the things, you know, it's one of the reasons that this podcast and this platform exists, is because we really struggle in terms of separating the personal and the professional, right? I think we know at this stage, we've known each other long enough to know now that we disagree on things all the time, the three of us in the WhatsApp group, right? There's not, you know, and oftentimes, I mean, I think you've referred to me as grilling people or grilling Martin McMahon earlier on. I've known Martin for years, and Martin would actually expect that of me. Martin would be disappointed if I didn't ask him the same questions as I would ask Micheál Martin or a Simon Harris or Michael Lowry. And the same thing goes for yourself. The same thing goes for Alan. And I expect that because it's a mark of respect. If I cannot sit here and defend the work that I have done, I have no business being on this platform at all. And that's where the discussion, I think, has to be. As I say, so rather than commenting specifically about Jeffrey Leo and the coverage, I think what we really need to do is to ask people to reflect on what they're doing and why. Are they really being fair to readers, to viewers, to listeners by not doing this? And, you know, we all have biases. We all come onto shows like this. We all write articles. We come into it from a certain perspective. Al is big into, you know, the whole world of tech and AI and that kind of thing, and brings that to the table. He brings both knowledge and baggage. Keith, when we're going to be talking about bogus self-employment at RTE a little bit later on, you've been in the eye of that particular storm, and that's okay, you know. But we have to acknowledge that those things exist. We can't just sit there and go, well, actually, I have no bias, I have no opinions of my own at all, because it's simply not true. And I don't think that, rather than actually damaging our credibility, I think it enhances it when we do say, look, lads, either I have skin in the game, I went to university with this fella, we had a startup together, we did whatever, or I did whatever for them, or that kind of thing. Just be open about those things, or say, oh, well, I saw an investor presentation once, it's very good. Be open about those things, because when you're not, I think one way or another comes, like it comes to the fore eventually, So if you're trying to cover up for somebody, we all know which journalists or which politicians went to school together, because we all see that from their coverage. If you sit back a little bit and you look at ages, and you look at who studied what in UCD and Trinity, you'll work it out for yourself fairly fast. And I do think that it's damaging for business journalism and for the business community if we don't nip that in the bud now and say, look, just be open about these things, put your cards on the table and see every story through to the end.
Yeah, and it's time for Ireland to just wake up and like, you got, even with RT, when they're standing in front of the the Dáil committee and they're saying we're going to be open and honest and transparent, and they're not. But we have to start being open, honest, and transparent. And Philip, I would put it to you, that's why you're living in Sweden, because of those morals you have there. There's no place here in Ireland as a journalist. You know what I mean? Trying to get to the bottom of things and trying to get the truth and all that kind of stuff. That's why you're kicked out and sent to Sweden. Get over there with your. Get over there. On the run plenty of moral high ground in Sweden.
Yeah, no, I'm on the run from a library fine. I never left back my copy of The Commitments after the film came out, But it is, do you know what? It's funny, Keith, actually, just before you leave that point, right? There is, like, I was just, and this covers a lot of the stories that we're going to be talking about today. There is a sort of a greater respect for journalism here, and there's a greater expectation. And like I've written recently, before Christmas now, I sort of, I put the cat.
But we're losing that. We're losing that, Al, aren't we? We're losing that, Phil. I'm sorry, but we're losing it. Like there was the paper of record. I don't think anybody would ever say that again. We're losing that, Philip. Like we do, like the land of saints and scholars and brilliant journalism.
So Philip, I'm completely in sync with you in this instance. As you said, we've no problem kind of calling.
Today, I really hope
no problem calling each other out. I'll give you another situation, right? So, I did raise an issue with the Ombudsman. Right. And the feedback I got was, did you contact the editor? That's the first step. And can you show us? And we did. And it's back to your point, Keith, which is like the editors are just, it's a waste of time, literally, at this stage. Right. You send in an email, you don't even, like most of the time, you don't even get a response. And if you do get a response, it's kind of like, oh, well, I've left it up to the journalist. So like, that's an interesting, I like where you're going with that in terms of, and look, I'll say it openly. I think Charlie's just a crappy journalist. I'll be honest. Like, I just think he's crap. Like the stuff he writes, the stuff I read that he's writing. And knowing some of the articles he's written, even independently to me, and I know exactly what's going on behind the scenes because I know some of the founders or some of the tech companies, and I know exactly what's going on in that entity. And he picks his people, he picks his favorites. That's it. Like he wrote an article last week by another guy. He's saying, oh, fantastic news. They brought in debt financing. What a great story. Did a front page exclusive, well-known technology entrepreneur. But the reality is underneath, everybody knows on the street that this guy is absolutely screwed the company. That's it. Everybody knows that, right? And that's it. That's the reality of the situation, right? Okay. No,
I really like what you're saying, and I really hope we get back to that, Philip. But the other point then is if the court case wasn't newsworthy, Al, the other element then of this court, this issue is that he didn't cover John Healy being removed as liquidator from Wennings Holdings and replaced by Karen Wallace. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? Because this seems to, like, if he's looking for something newsworthy, surely this is.
I Keith, like anybody who knows, like I've a PhD in insolvency because I've gone through the university of life of insolvencies, right? I think we were the first, probably the first, if not the first AI company or heavy tech company that went through all of the insolvency processes in its life cycle and went through 2 insolvency processes in parallel. And we even went through an insolvency process after the asset was sold. So we set a precedent on top of a precedent. I think we'll be case law at some stage. So I'll have to kind of tell my poor children if they ever pick up law that you're most likely going to read something about me at some stage.
I'll wait for the Netflix series to come out, to be honest, because it's like Game of Thrones. I'm lost here.
Actually, I'm signing an exclusive deal in that, but that's that we'll come up with that later. Niamh does have a book coming out, right? But the kind of the nuances with doing that of being able to follow through with the removal of a court appointed or voluntary liquidator are nuanced. And to be honest, guys, like it's big news. Like when a liquidator is removed and the company is in the process of being reversed out of that legal process, it tells a few things, right? So number one, to put a company into liquidation, you need to get buy-in from a liquidator, and the liquidator in question, John Healy, is a very reputable and credible liquidator in terms of, like, they're used a lot for revenue cases and liquidation. So anybody who looks up Kirby Healy will see that John Healy's name is there. So he would be seen as somebody that is credible. So as soon as his name is attached to a liquidation, everybody in that process would assume that he's done his diligence and he's comfortable that this is something he's going to take on. So he's put his credibility online for Jeffrey Leo, right? Okay. The second thing is somebody would have to sign off the accounts to say that this company is insolvent and that it should be in liquidation. So that's another process. You have to have an auditor or somebody to say, yeah, look, we're comfortable. We've done an independent review and this is a company liquidation. And then the third one is finding somebody to bring that case forward, which is the lawyers, right? Which again goes back to this guy, individual, Keith, who we've received letters from, Mark Hickey, who's moved firms with Leo, right? So he moved his firm, he brought Leo when he was a client, right? And I question how even Jeffrey Leo got through the AML and KYC process, right? When he's got a plethora of issues against him. So if you put all that together, and then somebody comes along who owns the assets, who came onto our podcast and show to speak to us, who owns the assets are not small. This is like, even though if it's small, okay, I'm not diluting if somebody was in the small, but this is like, you know, close to $100 million. So like, this is going to take somebody to pause and say, wait a second, we're putting a company into liquidation that has nearly 100 million in assets. Plus these businesses are cash flow businesses. They're performing businesses. The Pillow Hotel is, like, if you go in and do a report on the Pillow Hotel in terms of annual returns, I mean, it's pulling in 100 grand a week stuff, right? If you know, like, if this is a month or whatever, but it's a serious operation, right? Okay. And as the
in Dundrum, he's getting money from the government.
Millions
for the
millions of euros, like close to 12 million.
So there's money coming in. There's no reason for this to be happening.
And these companies were liquidated and moved to somebody else, and they moved. The assets moved into the name of the very person that was putting the company into voluntary liquidation.
It's crazy.
And then somebody somebody rocks up and says, that should not be liquidation. I own those assets. I'm reversing the liquidation. And we're sitting here, and there has been not one article one report made by a very specific individual, Charlie Taylor, who has been writing consistently and continuously about this guy.
There should be a scoop for him, Philip. There should be a scoop for him. What's wrong with the man? Philip's very uncomfortable. We're gonna move on from this. This story is going to run, and we will be coming back to it. I mean, because the other part of this is because of the iPass part of it, Dundrum House, the village of Dundrum, the people that live in that town. Can I just
finish on one?
I'll give you one more.
No, it's a material point back to you, which is very important for the people that are actually listening. It's the liquidation was a voluntary liquidation, which meant the owner of that business put that into liquidation, which was Jeffrey Leo. There is nobody else on the pitch, creditors or anybody else in that process. So it's solely the responsibility of Jeffrey Leo and John Healy that put that company into liquidation.
So what you're telling me is they're getting millions from the government to host people in Dundrum House. Something completely different to what he said he'd do with the place when he bought it. He was going to turn into this luxury, you know, it's got a golf course, you know, it's going to be a destination hotel, you know, 5-star. But he's bringing money in. And he's also bringing money in from this pub, hotel, Pillow House. And he's put himself into liquidation. Okay?
And to emphasize the point, what we're highlighting here is, are people abusing the very facet of our society where we support businesses and entrepreneurs? Are they starting to abuse an insolvency process for gain? That's the material point here, right? Okay. So that's the more specific point. You have an ecosystem where Ireland wants to be known as a very credible place to do business, a credible place for people to set up a company, to encourage stimulus, inward investment, foreign direct investment, and to bring the company forward, to encourage entrepreneurship and encourage people to bring in product, an injection of economic growth. And do we really want to be known as the country that supports shady acts? Like if you look at that family, just if we finish on this point, very established family, very successful US-based family, based in Ohio, worked hard, indigenous farmers, worked bloody hard for their money, guys. Like, I'm not saying that, money comes easy to anybody, but this is hard work. How do you think they're feeling right now when they say, we've invested in Ireland, we saw the opportunity, we bought hotels, we bought up properties, we've put 40 million of our hard-earned cash into Ireland, which is now 100 million, and our system allowed somebody to just overnight remove their assets from their control to screw them of $100 million. Like, that's the material point. And we have an entire ecosystem that just let it happen and nobody's talking about it.
He knows how to work the system. Yeah.
It just so happens that it seems to be the guy that I'm very happy to highlight. But on an objective point.
Well, adjacent, there's a personal vendetta adjacent.
No. I don't do vendettas. I'm a firm believer. I mean this sincerely. So it comes around. I've flown.
It's karma.
It comes around.
It's karma. So so we've already established that as a country, with we used to have credible journalists, right? That's in danger now, right? All our best journalists are moving out of the country because they have to go to Sweden. There's no jobs for them here, lads. You see them with their notepads heading off in the ferry. We're losing our credit. We're losing credible journalism, right? Now we're not credible as a place to do business, okay? And now, on top of this, we've got a new government. This man is going to be in as part of our new feature, Dick of the Week, I think. He's going to be one of the nominees. And now, our new government has been formed, and a member of that government, and actually one of the guys, Kingmaker, I think he was called, Michael Lowry, was once described as profoundly corrupt by the Moriarty Tribunal. That was in 2011. Following a damning report about his actions as Minister for Communications. So he was a Minister for Communications when somebody, a very well-known businessman who I won't name because he'll probably, he could take me to court. He ended up with a license that he made a lot of money from, and the Moriarty Tribunal talked about that. And he also talked about a property, and I will mention Ben Dunn, his name, because he can't sue me and he can't libel the dead. But God rest his soul. But Ben Dunn, a property that he owned, that there was shenanigans with, and it was there that the Moriarty Tribunal said what you did here was profoundly corrupt. Like, who would say that about a politician? And here we are in 2025. He's back in the fold. What does this say about Irish politics? Have Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael simply decided to overlook the past? It's like as if, Asher, look, what's a bit of corruption between new party friends, pals? Now, talk about losing credibility. What does this say about us, Philip?
It's one of those, it's a really fucking sad week, to be honest, for Irish democracy when you get a government like that returned in the way it has been returned. And there's a lot to unpack about it. But the one thing that we have to remember is that what we've done over the last sort of few weeks, I think it's now 49 days since the election, which took place at the end of November. It took that long to put together a government. And in the end, it depended on a man who was found guilty of knowingly preparing false tax returns in 2018 in Michael Lowry. And I think that, there has to be red lines somewhere, exactly as Alan was saying about business and credibility and that, and exactly as we've been saying about journalism and credibility, there has to be credibility in politics as well, right? And I want to go back about 25 years with an example from Sweden, where I live now, lads. There's a politician called Mona Sahlin, and Mona was, a long time, she's a social democrat politician, and for a long time she was tipped as that woman would probably be the first female prime minister of Sweden. Very talented, very well connected, very much loved out in the little red houses that are dotted around the country and that kind of thing. And then she was found to have been claiming expenses, right? And I'll never forget it because it's still to this day called the Toblerone affair. So what she had done was she'd used her government credit card to buy a bar of Toblerone chocolate and some nappies, right? And she hadn't sort of in her declaration said, oh, by the way, I owe you that €10 or that €15 back again. And that was the end of her. She never recovered politically from that, right? She ended up out in the wilderness, and she did come back and she did lead the Social Democrats later on in an election. But the people here simply would not elect her because of a Toblerone chocolate bar and some nappies. Now, our friend Mr. Lowry, who has taken advantage of various tax amnesties through the years, as you said, called by a tribunal of inquiry in the state of Ireland, referred to as being profoundly corrupt, and we let him choose who governs, and we give him God knows what, for that. Junior ministries here, Super Junior Nintendo ministries there. Again, it comes down to it again that it's not credible. Now, the one thing is, the only thing in our favor here is nobody is talking about this abroad, outside of Ireland. Nobody really cares how this government came to be, right? But if they did know who was pulling the strings, who was the man sort of doing the marionette thing, and that was Michael Lowry, I just find it profoundly embarrassing. And I don't think that it's possible to create a better society when these are the rules that you're playing with. Right now, I'm all for redemption, lads. The idea of putting people in prison to go and serve your sentence and then you come out and so it's not. You have to do things, right? But Lowry has never once apologized for what he did. As late as this week in Leinster House on the Plinth, he was going, oh, well, that's for you lads, journalists, to be moaned about. No. Somehow you have to make up for the things that you've done. Somehow you have to, and this is what's interesting about.
You don't understand how expensive it is to run a house with housekeepers and two houses.
We should try it sometime.
I think this is going to be our argument of today. So I'm going to try and complete red herring here, Philip. Right. So if you look at one of our earlier shows, we had Allo on talking about the situation that he had, and he named a very senior minister, Michael McGrath, who's now in Europe heading up compliance and
corruption,
right? So that in itself is, I just want to contra your issue of if they only knew who was running the country. I'll challenge that with you in terms of, I think it's just a general blanket. They really don't give a shit what each other are doing, right? So that's the point. If you're elected, you're elected.
Are some of the children of Ireland starting to see the emperor's not wearing any clothes? Or
I'll go further than that. I can say with confidence, if you put a call out today and get a bunch of people to come in to talk about Michael Lowry, and just talking about Michael Lowry specifically, they will absolutely swear their oath to the guy that he has been a phenomenal benefit.
He's been brilliant for it,
right?
Yeah. So he gets voted every time. Yeah.
If we just ping that for a second, we had a similar conversation on the Healy Rays, right? But isn't that where, if we remove the sins of the past conversation for a moment and we get back into the conversation that we had previously, which was if everybody started to take care of their patch and start to improve it for the actual people that have elected him in general. And Michael Lowry is known as a guy that good, bad, and different. If you voted for him or didn't vote for him, if you're poor, rich, or whatever, or famous, he'll represent the people of, if you're in his clan, you're in his clan, and he'll walk through the proverbial walls for you into the fire for you, right? Which has been demonstrated now. So it's down to the point of Philip where we're essentially into the era of we're creating our own situation, right? Okay, we're in fact creating our own future.
We are the architects of what we find in front of us. Yeah.
So the big problem I have with that,
can I just, Philip? Can I just say something?
I'll let Philip come in, Keith. Let him come back. Let him rebut it.
Go on,
let him rebut. Come on, we have to have a bit of.
I'm really annoyed now. I'm very angry. I'm very angry.
Hold that thought. So
I respectfully come back on that. I rebut
pencils
so
and pens.
The problem I
have.
You
have an affair with a young one.
Oh God, Eamon Dunphy, yeah. No, but the problem I have with that whole thing, and what Alan says is entirely correct, right? You cannot fault the Healy Rays or the Lowrys or the Kevin Boxer Morans of this world for what they do for the constituents, right? But what they're doing for the constituents is actually, or should be, the job of county councillors and not the job of TDs, right? So in Ireland, I would feel that our local government is too small and our national government basically does everything, right? The federal government just does everything. And that to me is a problem, because if you're working on a local level, as the Healy Rays do and as Lowry's do, and they do it brilliantly, they're fantastic at doing it. God only knows.
And we're not putting them in the same bracket because they're able to do it without any corruption. We just should make that clear. We're not putting them in the same place.
But just as local representatives, they're brilliant at it. But what I would be be looking for, with the sort of bigger picture thing is you're running a country and not a constituency, right? And that's where the Irish system falls down for me.
Philip, we said this last week. We said that we needed we needed somebody in Dublin looking after homelessness. Did we not say that?
But that has to be on a national level, right? And then the problems that we do face, because there is the national, there's a regional, right? But for the big things that we're looking at, like the things Alan was talking about, the legal system, about like business ethics, about these things, that has to be managed on a national level. We have foreign policy that has to be looked at. You can't do foreign policy based on what they think in Cahersiveen, right? Well, you can do a little bit of it, but there has to be sort of more so than just, my constituency, because essentially most of these politicians will tell you your re-election campaign begins the day you get elected, right? So the 30th of November, the 1st of December, the 2nd of December, they already had to start working. Barry Hennigan now in Dublin Bay North, I think this young lad who's just come in there, he's already starting to try to get elected the next time around, because that's how Irish politics works. And what I'm saying is we need to move away from this thing of giving power to people based on that regional ability to get things done, on getting things done for local people. And we need to concentrate on who can get things done at the national level. Because
nobody,
the biggest
Philip,
problem,
nobody.
But I know you
can't do either at the moment.
Yeah, but you have
Philip,
to believe that something is better.
I'm really surprised at you, man, because that look, it's naive.
He's playing devil's advocate. Well, look. You look at the Healy Rays.
It's never going to fucking happen. It's just not going to fucking happen.
But this is the thing: the turkeys at some point have to vote for Christmas, lads, because otherwise it's just going to keep going like this, right? They are the two boys in question. I'd say they hate me, the two of them all together, But again, they do.
But hang on a second.
I think they mentioned you actually. I think they mentioned you.
Yeah, they said
those mock fuckers.
Watch us
I think they called us the butterflies or something instead. They messed it up.
They said, if I get that, I'll slap his watch.
I'm telling you now.
If I have to cycle on my bicycle and get that Philip lad, I'll slap his watch.
Those butterflies hurt my feelings. They hurt my feelings. Look how fast he's going.
Danny Healy Ray stood in front of the camera and said, if Donald Trump wants somebody to negotiate a way out of Ukraine or some whatever, I didn't even know what he was talking about, he should use my brother Danny. Danny wasn't even talking. Apparently this man is the best at negotiating deals for the people of Kerry, and he didn't even say two words to the cameras. He is the best, and I'm going to speak for him. Because it's just like, is he a ventriloquist? Is that a puppet?
Guys, it's the silent guys you have to watch.
They are going. Even there, lads. Even there, they're hyping each other up. Like, they're on the re-election trail already and that kind of thing.
You wait. We will be filling the potholes of Killorglin with solid gold. You wait and see.
Look how fast we're going. Do you remember that? Hey, look how fast. Slow down, Tommy. Slow down.
Honest to God,
lads, we're fecked. Basically, is what we're saying. Very quickly, before we get into some good news, not really. Before we get into more the dick of the week and the believe it or not, is there two new features. Wait till you hear the theme tunes, lads. Oh my God, spent hours on them.
Roll it there.
I should enter them into the Eurovision. What about? Can you briefly talk to us, Philip, about your interview with Martin McMahon about the admission? Let me just see if I can play this here. I'm so good at this this technology, lads.
Live television, ladies and gentlemen.
By Kevin Backhurst that RTE, if they were to pay back the money they owed to people, if they were to, basically obey the law, they would be. Hey! Let me see if I can get that there. Okay, that's not it. Okay, we'll abandon that. This
all right.
I need technology.
What I would suggest people do instead, after that fantastic intro, right? Go back and listen to the whole conversation. We spoke to Martin the other night, or I spoke to Martin the other night for a long time about RTE, about bogus self-employment in general and what went wrong here. And we'd agreed to do this because, we've been talking sort of backstage with having Keith about doing an interview-based podcast, which we've called Unvetted now. And hopefully we're going to be putting them out there once a week for people to listen to. And Martin was the first person because I knew there was something stirring. Martin's the kind of guy that sometimes he tells you things straight out, and sometimes he hints at things and you have to work it out for yourself. And just hours before we were due to talk about it, so we booked the conversation, everything else like that, and his own podcast, the Echo Chamber podcast, you'll find him on Patreon. They released this a podcast featuring a tape, a recording of Kevin Backhurst saying that if RTE was to make good on its commitments or what it owed to all of the people who'd worked there on bogus self-employment contracts, they would be bankrupt in the morning. right? And that is something that Martin has been saying for a long time, the guts of a year, because he knew that Kevin Backhurst had said this at this all-team meeting, or this town hall meeting, I believe it's called. So they got a recording of that and they put it out there. Now, for those who aren't aware, right, bogus self-employment is different to regular self-employment, right? Bogus self-employment is where you're working for somebody and they're basically using self-employment as a way to not pay employers PRSI, holiday pay, pension contributions, that kind of thing. And you know, for freelancers, I'm a freelance journalist. I have been for many years, right? I like that life. I get to work with you guys. I get to work with other outlets as well. I can put an article into the Irish Examiner if I'm allowed, you know, that kind of thing. It's a great life, you know, but I choose that. But for people who are solely working for RTE 40 hours a week for years on end, that's not really freelance, lads. That's not really self-employment. If RTE are the ones who tell you where to be at what time every single day of your working life, you're not self-employed, you're employed, right? And this has been, according to Martin, this has been decided by the Supreme Court that, I'm sorry, that is employment, right? Now, what that means, and what Kevin Backhurst means when he says RTE will be bankrupt in the morning, that means that everybody, including you, Keith Walsh, who worked for RTE for any length of time, right, is owed pension contributions, they're owed holiday pay, they're owed so much more that they would have been entitled to as on the books employees. And that's the thing. If RTE had to come out and pay that in the morning, Martin reckons billions. As far as their own estimates go, I think it's about 700 million is what they've received as a bailout to cover some of those things now. And since our conversation, since we put out the Unvetted podcast with Martin McMahon, I've had somebody who would, let's face it, it's going to be a household name for most people who are interested in specific subjects. Right? It'd be somebody related to RTE that everybody knows, got in touch with me privately and said, yeah, I'm in the middle of this process as well. So you honestly wouldn't believe, like, it's not just the people working in the canteen, it's not me, you know, the tape ops, or it's not just the people working production. Household names are involved in this process because they have been let down in this process of bogus self-employment.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true. And for them to say, if we were to pay back the money we owed the people that we have basically ripped off, we'd be bankrupt, is basically them saying we're bankrupt because it's either that or they break the law. Because you're talking about the Supreme Court, you're talking about the Supreme Court ruling. So if they're saying, no, lads, like, this is the law, you've broken the law, with the, like, revenue knew about it, social welfare knew about it.
Yeah, but Keith, it's not even the law. Like, if you just step back for a second, just take that sentence and just pragmatically look at it, right? And I know this is objective for you, right? In terms of the conversation.
This is my vendetta.
Yeah,
we're all here with that. Philip, who are you after?
So
vendetta Friday. I'm after everybody all the time.
Everybody, he's taking everybody down, man. He wants Sweden. He wants Ireland to become part of Sweden. But and I'm Viking descent, so I'm there with you. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Part of Scandinavia. I like the ring to that. I mean, we sold our oil to Norway anyway, so we might as well just move over there, right? But so if I'm sitting today, which I've been in this situation, so this is my layman description. If you cannot pay your bills as they fall due, you're essentially insolvent, and you can be liquidated, right? So this is a bill. This isn't fabricated. This is an actual bill that's owing. So this is money that's owing. It's been proven to be owing. So therefore, if somebody said, "I'm going to send you in a request for payment," and you've got payment terms of, let's say, if we're being fair, 30 days. If you're not being fair, it's on, you know, if it's like, if there's procurement process agreed where you say, look, it's on presentation of the invoice. You send an invoice and say, why haven't you paid it? And you're waiting 2 months later and you're still not paid. You can petition to wind up that company.
Yeah.
So this is
going back to my
this is going very back to my point, Keith, of, like, we're using the insolvency process when we feel like it, and when it's not convenient, we don't use it.
We should be using it. Yeah.
It's not unrelated what we're talking about here.
It's totally, right? It's all related. It's all we're like everything we've talked about. We need to do better. The politicians need to do better. Our journalists need to do better. RTE, you know, including journalists, but we need to do better, and that's the problem. It's like it's people are going, oh, these are isolated incidents. But when we sit down here, the three of us, and we talk about them, we bring them all together, it's a pretty stark, depressing, disturbing picture.
Come on,
I'm crying.
They're isolated incidents that happen 1,000 times a week in the same situation, and they keep going. I mean, they're isolated.
I've had
what do you
several
call- is this a
crocodile tears.
Have we turned into a conspiracy show for fuck's sake?
Frankly,
I hope so.
I have never heard of anything like this.
I've
happening
never
before,
heard of an issue
and I'm
like
sure
that
I
ever.
never will.
Okay. Right. Okay. It's time for. It's time for this. Inspired by. Guess who? Guess who? Guess who it's inspired by?
Hello, sisters. Time for Dick of the Week.
Oh my God! This technology is just. Okay, hang on. We're gonna play it again. I'll just get my guitar back out. Hang on a sec, lads. Relax. Everybody, calm down.
Hey, Mr.
It sounds
Hello,
like the guy from
sisters.
Deliverance.
Time for Dick of the Week.
Remember the yeah.
Hey,
Time for-
Mr. Hello,
Shut up,
sisters.
Freddie
Time for
Ears.
Dick of the Week.
Oh my God! Dick of the week. He sings Dick of the week. It's because of my God. What is wrong with this technology? It's because of the new Bob Dylan movie. I tried to do a Bob Dylan for our new.
Jeez, Keith, all you're
Stink
missing
for
is
Dick of the
squeal like oh boy, squeal like oh hey.
Listen to this one. Listen to this
It
one.
was a bit
How
deliberate,
many?
all right.
How many fingers am I holding up?
That fam-
Lord,
oh,
it's a good
man.
thing it's
Let's
Friday.
try
have
this. Let's
faith.
try this.
We
See who
have
this
hit the
one's.
depths of depravity, fella. We're in deep trouble.
See who this one is
Hey!
inspired by.
I'm grading to you. Sneaker Adam.
What do you think of that,
on
lads?
earth was that?
That was inspired by Kneecap. It's called. The bit is called Believe It or Not. It's inspired by Kneecap. I
Hey!
like Kneecap. I rap in
grading
Irish.
to you. Sneaker Adam.
Keith sounds like Bosco.
Bosco on the book fast. That's what that was.
You're
Where
going
do you
down a
think you-
very Keith. You're going very dark, very dark. Deliverance of Bosco. I don't know. Dude.
Lads,
It's just getting.
lads.
This is getting
All
too
I'm
dark.
saying
lads,
is-
I sit in this room in front of this computer in a box room. I'm like your man who does. I'm like your man who does the.
Is this what happened when you? Is this what happens in Irish guy when you move to London?
Unreal. All I'd say is the film director David Lynch died yesterday, and Keith is not taking it well at all.
I've been drinking a lot of Robinsons.
Yeah, you're
I'm
definitely.
a bit high, I'm high on shots of Robins. It's
Twin Peaks
the concentrated stuff is very hard. Listen, who would you nominate for Dick of the Week? And you can't say me.
It's hard to see beyond anyone. It's hard to see
Well, you're
beyond
gonna-
Leo.
Al, you go
You're gonna
first.
say Mr. Jeffrey Leo, right?
He's kind of been in pole position now for quite some time, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. He's been our Dick of the Week. He's right up there. I would
Charlie Taylor.
go. Okay, the journalist. He's changed. He's gone for the journalist Charlie Taylor. Okay, a new entry at number 2. We'll see. We'll see where he is. Philip, any thoughts on Dick of the Week? I mean, you're a good guy. You're fair. But, I don't want to put you in a position where you have to, castigate or to, put anyone down.
I'm going to give it to. I can't remember who the fella's name was, but he was a financial advisor for Sven-Göran Eriksson. Do you remember the football manager who passed away there late last year? He used to manage
Sven,
England and that kind of thing. And Sven's will came out this week, and it turned out that he died owning the taxman in England millions, basically, because he was ripped off back in about 2010. I remember I actually spoke to Sven about it a few years afterwards because he was doing absolutely anything he could to make money, and he'd written a book about his life, and
Including talking to you.
Yeah, exactly. That's how bad it got. Was he had to talk to me to publicize his book, But yeah, he did say, at the time that basically all the money that he made as England manager, he lost due to various sort of, people investing things on his behalf and that kind of thing. So Sven-Göran Eriksson's financial advisor when he was England manager, Dick of the Week for me, 100%. I just hope it doesn't turn out to be Jeffrey Leo.
Al has to go. When Al goes, I'm going to say my Dick of the Week.
Go on, say it. I want to hear it.
No, I'm going to go for Lowry. and it's not really Lowry. It's everybody for allowing Lowry to exist. And
Al, if you had gone, if you'd left the call now, he would have said it was you. He was primed to say it was you.
Al Lowry. Mike Al Lowry.
I'll bring my banjo next time, Keith. You might like me a bit more.
It would never be you. It would never be you. Okay, guys, listen. It's been a show. I'm tired. I've written songs. I've fucked up the technology. It's been a tiring hour. But thank you for joining me, and we'll see you on the other side. And listen to that podcast.
done,
Al, you can go. He's got an important meeting. Listen to the podcast, Philip. You get it wherever you get your podcasts. I should actually just turn it. Yeah, wherever you get your podcasts. It's Moth News, Unvetted. Very clever name. It's a brilliant interview. Are you gone? Is he gone as well?
I'm still here.
Maybe we're all gone.
Alan's gone. Alan's gone. Yeah, let's talk about
Alan's
it.
gone,
Let's
yeah.
talk about it. He's gone.
Yeah, Alan. So yeah, he's look. I like Alan. I think we're getting a bit of lag here. Get it wherever you get your podcasts. Unvetted. It's very interesting. Like, I mean, I know that I'm biased, and you know, I've talked about being an RT, and I've talked about like trying to get some of that money back and stuff like that, and you know, it's ongoing. But even as an interview, a standalone, if you weren't involved, it's very interesting. It's better than that catfish too. Johnny's catfish, lads. Tell you what I know about the catfish. I know GA catfish. I know what the GA is, and I know what a catfish is, and that's it. We leave it there. Philip, I'll let you go. I'm sure your back is wrecked now at this stage, sitting up straight.
Destroyed sitting here.
Yeah, enjoy your weekend. Thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, we've had our biggest viewership to date. Thank you very much to everybody. By like, Philip, like our biggest viewership today, like it's gone from like, you know, it's gone up thousands of %. Now it was a low base.
What can I say? As soon as you started singing, the crowd started to turn up. This is give the people what they want and then give them more of it. That's all we need to do.
This guy is the next kneecap, literally.
Or the next to be kneecapped.
All right, we'll leave it there. Do follow us on X at @MothNews_ and Monopoly of Truth. And look out for that podcast. It's Moth News Unvetted with our brilliant reporter, chief reporter, man in charge of everything, good guy over in Sweden, Philip O'Connor.